Hey traders, this is Taylor with Top Pick Trading, November 16th, 2023, and I want to give you guys a bar by bar lesson today. So let's get started. So 8 o'clock comes right in here, so this is when you get here at the earliest, and it looks like it's range action so far, so I draw my overnight major high resistance and then major low resistance. It did bounce right in here, so we'll keep an eye on this. It could end up being like this, but for now we'll watch it like this. I draw my trends. Looks like we had a downtrend and this tight little uptrend with a break and new high. We dropped sideways. When we dropped right here, this looks like a decent little downtrend. Maybe needs a new low. We've just got a break right here. So let's get started. Right here we get a second entry short, but it's kind of low into this potential little double bottom. Getting close to these range lows that, like I mentioned, could be right here. So a little bit sideways as well. Nice bar, but I'd probably avoid that one. You can see it would have worked. And now we're showing that this resistance or support is likely the more major support somewhere in here. So let's see if it bounces there. It does bounce there. So now I would adjust like I just did to right in here. And now we get another bearish bar off the EMA, but we've already got a breaking new low, so I'm not interested in that. You can see it didn't trigger, would have gone higher. Drops higher. I'd have this micro uptrend here. It gets a break in new high. Comes up to this overnight resistance. Pushes a little bit higher. Could be that it's more like this. Break a new high. And we get this lower high really far from the EMA. Only concern with this would be a traveling channel that looks more like this. That could be valid. Honestly, it looks more like it's this. But if it's this, either way, it is a break and new high. Pretty far from the EMA. So that one's pretty tempting. I may mark that as an aggressive trade. Just because we did push above that overnight resistance. A little bit sideways too, but you got over 2 points to the EMA. And really, if I'm being honest with myself, it feels like this is probably the uptrend here. Breaking a couple legs to a new high. And you can see that did come back to the EMA, so you would have gotten your scalp on that. Now, we're working lower. And this. Still working lower. Strong micro downtrend here. See if we can come back to the EMA and show resistance. Unfortunately, it gets closer to these lows. And we come back, we get a first break. Now we're working higher here. I draw it like that. And we get a first entry short right here, but now we're back above the EMA, so no trade there. Would have worked, but no setup. Get that second leg to a new high from this uptrend. Just chopping in the middle, really nothing in this area. Bounces here. We're just getting V shapes on both sides of the EMA, so this is telling us range behavior. Right in the middle, nothing here. And now we're pushing higher. It could just be like this with a break a new high. Keep an eye on it. Still pushing higher. You can see it's finding some resistance at that overnight overnight high area. Dropping sideways. And you can see it bounced right here. So this could be a trend. Let's see how it fits. And it does fit pretty nicely. So that's our third touch. And it is holding pretty nice. And we get a closeout side here, it looks like. See if we can get a second entry. No first entry. And now we're pushing strongly below the EMA. Micro downtrend here. Get a break from that, push up. It may just retest the highs without offering, and nope, it comes back down. And we get a new low on the micro downtrend. We could just fall back into the range. It looks like that's probably what is happening. And here we get a first entry long this is kind of like a double top, so this looks like a first entry, second entry, and it is right at this resistance area. Problem is, this feels like the second leg down from this, so it is at the resistance, but I just don't really like how this didn't form out of micro downtrend, so I'm not going to mark that. Pushing way lower, and now this may be a trend in and of itself, something like this maybe, but it's hard to know that when the failure occurred right here, so I'd probably avoid that. And it is holding. We get a break from it. See if we get a second entry short. No first entry, and now it's pushing higher. Draw it like that. Pushing above overnight support, or sorry, resistance. Comes back to the EMA. Let's look for a second entry maybe. First entry. Nope, new high. And now, actually, we have a second entry short right here. And it's, this overnight high kind of keeps traveling around or bouncing somewhere in this area overall, and it looks like it's turning. Frankly, it looks to be at the time a little bit above that area. This is a pretty tempting short here, but you've got the 3 bullish bars right here in a row. It is a great bar, but you're a little bit above that resistance as well. You may expect a retest on this downtrend, so that's something to think about. But maybe we can get a lower high instead. I think this is a little bit aggressive. And it would have triggered, and it would have worked. So we don't know that ahead of time. Down or uptrends seem to be played out, so now we could retest this downtrend. Dropping strongly to the low side. Get a break, first entry, second entry, but far from the EMA. And it gets the new low now as well. And now we're approaching these overnight lows. So let's see if we bounce here. If we do bounce, this general vicinity gets rejected, comes back. This is just kind of a weird area, not more of a sit on your hands kind of area, it feels like. And now we're pushing strongly to the upside. You can tell this is a range day because we're just pushing strongly in each direction kind of randomly. And it's really, it is turning off this support somewhat, but it's changing directions in the middle, which makes this very difficult. Get a break, no retest, just straight back to the lows. Dropping sideways, approaching these overnight lows. We get this nice bar here, it's just a first entry, and that's a lot of downward momentum there. It looks like it would have worked. Now the EMA held and pushed it right back down though. And now we get this pretty good bar. This is like a triple test right at that overnight low area. This one's pretty tempting, but again, that EMA just held. We're really close to it. And you can see we're kind of making lower lows here. Or sorry, lower highs from here to here to here to here to here. So maybe if this was lower with a little bit better wick, you consider that. And it wouldn't have triggered anyway, so now you've kind of got no rejection here. Now it would have triggered. Looks like the EMA is holding it up. This is the second entry short, but it feels like all your downtrends have played out, unless there's something like this maybe, but that, frankly, on a range day feels too wide, so I wouldn't draw that. And it looks like it actually would have stopped you out now. This is like a third entry. If you consider this a double bottom, you could see this as a second entry short, but it's just, there's no bigger context at play as far as downtrends, and this closes above the EMA anyway, so I think you want to avoid that. Now we bounce right at these overnight lows again, but that EMA is still holding it up. It's not really pushing out of here strongly, and this is an inside bar, so I think you want to avoid that. And I don't know which way this broke first, low side or high side, but either way, you wouldn't want to take this for the same reason, just coming right up on this area where we've turned 3 times now, 4 times, and it wouldn't have triggered, and it would have blown lower. Now we're correcting strongly back to the EMA, pushes through the EMA, gets a break. Notice where it turns right at that same area and pushes lower. It's a new low. Just hovering around these lows here. Looks like it's getting more bearish. I mean, we keep making lower highs. This little support area is holding it up, but it looks like it may be faltering now, and it does. And now we push above the EMA and hold right back up at it. So this is chopping lower, but there's no clear downtrend in play. Maybe that, but it also feels really wide for a range day. And we get a second entry long here, but we're obviously working lower and the EMA is holding it up, so no trade there. Would have stopped you out. Bounce again here. First entry short. And we don't get a second entry. Now we're pushing higher. Looks like this could be the trend, or it could just be this with a break a new high. We'll need to see how it comes, what happens when it comes back to the EMA. And it just keeps pushing higher. And this is kind of holding off the highs pretty well now. See right there, it holds decently. So let's see if we can, what happens at the EMA. You notice we did turn off the overnight lows acting as resistance this time. So let's see if that holds to be true or if we push back into the range. And we get technically by the count, actually it's not by the count, we broke lower here, but this looks kind of like a visual failure, but that trend line didn't really hold here. And we've got 3 bearish bars, so no setup there. And we get a second entry long here, but a lot of stem on top and floating above the EMA and right into this resistance, so no trade there either. And notice we turn right at that overnight lows again, or sorry, yeah, the overnight lows. And now we're pushing higher. It looks like a break and new high. Chopping higher. And at this point, when you see it chopping like this, it just continues higher. It may be a wider channel. It's hard to trust it in real time right there when the visual failure occurred, but now you can see this holds decently well. So you have to adjust these in real time. It's not always just a clear break and new extreme. Sometimes they'll travel on you and you have to widen them, but it can be hard to trust it in real time when it occurs, and you'll just see it later. And you get a first entry long, and it just pushes higher. And if I just barely adjust this a little bit more, maybe that's a break, but you can argue for something like this that still does not have a break. And now we come back to the EMA again. First entry, or technically this is the second entry, but no bar there. And this clearly now, you can only adjust for so long before you're just widening too much. This still holds prices pretty nicely, but at this point I would consider this a definite break right here. So we've got the break and new extreme from the blue uptrend. We're approaching the overnight highs again. So let's see what happens if we get there. We don't. We push back below the EMA for now. Kind of hard to know. We're just kind of getting V-shapes in the middle once again. And we get this higher low here, but we've got this micro downtrend in play, and the uptrend's already played out. So this is kind of a weird area with the V-shapes as well. And now we get a second entry short by the count, but like I just said, this is very V-shaped. You're right in the middle. This closes above the EMA just barely, so no trade there. And now you get a failed second entry short, but you've got competing context still. You've got the V-shapes, and at the same time, this micro downtrend may get a retest. So I think you want to avoid that. And it would have not triggered unless you took the engulfing bar, and then it would have pushed lower. So you get the break and new low from the micro downtrend. Push back to the EMA. You get a first entry short. And now we're turning here, so I would watch this as well. That looks pretty decent. It's a little bit wide up here, but it's still holding prices. So let's see if maybe we get a second entry short now. We get a first entry, and we get a new low. So no setup once again. And that happens a lot on these range days. They'll just, first entries will make those new extremes without offering anything. We do bounce right at this area again, the overnight lows. I don't think you want to consider this long because this downtrend seems like it could be legit. And the EMA just held as well. So, and really, frankly, we're not quite at those overnight lows. We're a little bit above it. So tough call there. Turn here, right around the midline again. Drop lower. I'd watch this general area. We get a first entry short. And now we get a nice second entry short. Triple test. You can see we turned here once, twice, and this is the third time. This micro uptrend here, technically, did not get the new extreme, but it looks like it tried to retest. We turned right at the midline, and you're expecting this downtrend to get a new low. Unfortunately, the bar is really big, so maybe you drop a limit order on this one, but I think this is a decent trade here. Just to ride it probably to this low. And coming back on you. Okay, and now you get a lower high, but that closes too low in my opinion, right into this general support area that's around here. I don't think you want to take that. I think you got to take the triple test or then wait. And now we're bouncing at this general area. This is like a third entry technically. And this really could get a stronger leg to a new low right here. Still not quite at those overnight lows. So I think you want to avoid that. Okay, and it wouldn't have triggered anyway. Now this is kind of the retest leg, so it may not get its own retest, but I'll draw it just in case. Looks like it could be an overshoot from it. Pushes back to the EMA. You get a first entry short. Now we're right at those overnight highs again, or sorry, overnight lows, but close to that EMA. And you get the second entry short, but now we're right on the opposite side. We're right into the overnight lows, and the downtrend already got the new low. Like I mentioned, this is the retest leg, so you can't rely on that itself, especially on a range day, to get a retest. And now you get a failed second entry short right into this previous support resistance area and the EMA. This formed on the other side of the EMA. I think you can consider it. Still pretty tempting right here. Expecting at least this little leg likely to retest, but just formed on the wrong side of the EMA. Tough call. So looks like it would have worked. And now you get a failed third entry short, but just congestion, no setup anyway. Pushes higher. And now this is starting to look like a similar situation to this, where we could widen it, and it still somewhat fits. It looks like maybe that's a little too wide there. That fits prices nicely, so maybe this is a break, a new high, or this is kind of all one break. So let's see what happens. Comes back to the overnight lows again, bounces strongly. This one's pretty tempting, to be honest. Fortunately, it's below that EMA. The EMA is not really holding either way, but the concern I have is that this looks like it could be that break and new extreme already. It's just a tough call. It's not extremely clear. If you had it like this, then maybe you consider that. It's still technically a first entry, but it looks like a visual one. But in my opinion, it is probably tighter right there with a break and new extreme. So I think you want to wait on that, especially since it's not a true second entry anyway. And it pushes higher, gets the new extreme. Would have worked, but we don't know that at the time. Now we're watching this channel. This is also potentially a retest leg, but this could just be a trend in and of itself because we've already got a break and new high here. And it is a strong leg here. And it looks like it's coming to the EMA. It turned right in this general area. Yeah, so this is confirmed resistance here. Pushing strongly down. May not get a retest if it continues down a little bit lower. It does push up for that second leg, so now we'd probably be looking for a measured move on this. It puts us right at the overnight high, so that would be a good target. And then at this point as well, you probably want to start watching this channel. This fits pretty decently. The highs don't fit very well, but we'll keep an eye on this one. And we get technically this is a second entry long, but really far from the EMA, and the bar is not all that great, into some congestion as well. And this downtrend may retest, so we're sitting on our hands. Now we get our lower high right into that EMA and approaching this potential trend line, so no setup there. Chop sideways, just no new low here that turned, so just extremely sideways congestion. Now we're right at the potential key entry point, so let's see if we bounce here. Unfortunately, this bar is not any good to take. Now we get a doji under the EMA. This was a good bar. This would be pretty tempting if it closed right in here on its high. And it does push higher. Yes, it pushed to the resistance. So now it comes back strongly off this resistance. Oops. You know, you could widen this one just a tad. That pretty much still fits. Maybe this is an unconvincing break for the size of this channel, in my opinion. No setup though. We didn't tick below or anything, and we're grinding right around this resistance. And we get a failed second entry short, but on this chart it's sideways and into that resistance. And it's 330. It would have worked, but you don't know that. So yeah, it looks like this ended up holding a little bit longer as well. So yeah, not many setups today. Difficult range day. And it wasn't even like we got that 4 of bars. It was just the context never gave a second entry short, or resistance or support didn't hold at great times. I think this one's a decent one to take a shot on. I hate that it closed higher, so I still think it's aggressive. This one's borderline as well. Maybe I'll mark this one. The only reason I don't want to mark this is how that EMA held right here. It's aggressive, but the bar is really great. So if you took that one, maybe, and then the triple test as well, I think it's a good trade. You have to take this one on a limit, or I don't know if I'd go engulfing mid range like that, but I think on a limit that one's a decent trade. So yeah, 2 or 3 decent setups today. Not much. Gotta be very patient on these range days. So yeah, hope you guys had a good trading day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.